Welcome to the Softly Inspired channel, helping you speak more effectively and authentically about your business. I'm Julie Kenny, and what people want to know about how I work is what I spend most of my time doing with my clients. And I think they expect me to say, doing power poses for confidence, or knowing where to put your hands when you speak. And it's not that those things aren't sometimes important or useful, but I spend most of my time talking about the stories, uncovering those moments before the business, in the business, and the vision for the business. It's those stories and those emotions which connect most with our ideal customer, and also our advocates and our collaborators. Because when we can show how we feel about what we do, when it comes across how genuine we are about how we help others, then we connect more authentically with people. And it's not always easy to find the right stories. We can get very bogged down in thinking about our business as the reason we created it was a way to make money that fitted around our family or fitted around our dependence and our responsibilities. But that doesn't tell anybody why this business, why you have the business you have right now, and why it is right now, why the timing, why you selected this thing and not another thing. Why did you select weight loss rather than craft products? Why do you do what you do right now? And what does that mean to you? What are the results that you see? What lights up your life when things happen? And those moments are sometimes, we get so wrapped up in those moments that we forget that they are part of our story. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about stories. How do we find the right story? And how do we tell our stories more effectively? So let's think about those stories. We have a lot of stories. And if you think you don't, you need to work with somebody to figure out what those stories are. And that may be officially working with somebody, a coach, perhaps, or it might just be sitting down with a friend, trusted colleague, and talking through those moments and spotting those moments which light you up, moments that frustrate you sometimes as well. These are the things that matter, and these are the things that we need to be sharing. But also it's to do with what your ideal client needs. And I'm not for a moment suggesting that you make anything up. You need to be genuine. But what is it that they need to hear? If it is fitting around a business that fits around their lifestyle, and quite often this comes in where people are in some type of network marketing organization, the ability to flex that time is important. So yes, we can talk about that then. But it doesn't really tell you why that particular business. And it might be that it's because it really fits with your values. Maybe it's your values about the environment. Maybe it's your values about how profits are distributed. Maybe it's about your values or your needs of how those products affect your skin or your body, your environment. And those are really important stories. And these may be the ones that your ideal client needs to hear. And we'll talk for a moment about network marketing, because I know a lot of people have that as part of their business, even if it's not all their only business. Yes, it fits around your time, but why is somebody going to come to you rather than somebody else? Well, you can maybe bring them in because it fits around their time, but if it doesn't fit their values, they're going to go off and find another company that does. So your values matter even more. Your reason why behind it matters even more. And that usually starts with a story that happens way, way back, maybe for a long time, over a period of a long time before you came to your business. So find that right story that connects. And keep exploring that and keep looking at that and keep working on finding those stories. Write them down, have a book where you keep and capture those stories, those moments when you're working with clients that light them up. That becomes part of the stories. So tell those stories. So once we get those stories, how do we tell them more effectively? And honestly, we all know it's true. And some of us don't really want to do this, but practice. We have to practice telling those stories in order for them to become more natural to us, in order for them to flow more effectively. But practice doesn't just make that story better. Practice makes us feel more confident because we know that story is going to flow. So confidence, we build the confidence to tell our story by practicing telling our story. The first time it won't necessarily come out smoothly. It won't necessarily fit with us, but we will find that way to speak more authentically as we practice. The second way to be able to speak more confidently is to make sure it is a true story. Yes, there are different ways to tell it, but it doesn't make it a different story. So I can tell you that I used to hate speaking. I used to hate presenting at work. And that's a fact. I can tell that. I hate presenting at work. I found a way to work on that. And now I don't hate presenting at all. I love it. But I could also tell you about that time when I walked in the room feeling sick, physically sick. My hands were sweating. I did not want to be there. And I had to speak just for a few moments about the project I've been working on. I hated that. And as soon as I'd said it, I felt worse because I was worried about whether I'd said it right, whether people thought I was an idiot for the way that I couldn't speak in a flow, that I'd muddled my words up. Had I said it right? Had I misspoken about something? Was everything exactly as I said it was? Although obviously I said what I thought was right. Maybe they thought something different. And I wrapped myself up in that. And I worried about that for the rest of the day. And I can tell you that. And some of you will know exactly how that feels. And I can tell you that I hated that. But telling you I hated that doesn't give you that feeling. And I will have taken you, some of you, to that feeling of how awful that felt. So we tell it better by being more authentic and telling true stories. Because I can tell that story, it's more comfortable for me to tell because I'm used to telling it, I've practiced telling it. But also I know it's true. So I'm not having to remember anything. If you find the story that you think is going to be a good story, but it's not yours, you have to remember it. You have to learn it. That doesn't give you a great deal of confidence. And the third way to get more confident telling stories, apart from practicing, make sure it's a true story, is to remember why we're telling the story. What is it that your audience needs to get from that story? So I know some of you are listening and watching this and knowing that you don't feel comfortable speaking in front of a group, a networking group. Maybe it's in front of a group of customers that you're trying to present to. You're not feeling comfortable doing that. And it feels a lonely place. So I want to share that with you because I know that you need to know you're not the only one there. But also it can change. So knowing that I'm sharing this for you makes me feel more confident about sharing that story, because it's not about how I feel, it's about how you feel. So that's how we can be more confident telling stories. How can we be more effective? There's a little bit back to what I said earlier about different ways to tell that story. We bring emotion in. When we share the emotion of how we felt in the points in that story, we share that emotion that we see on the face of our clients, our customers, those people that we help, then people connect with that. It becomes a more effective story. We think about, again, about the people we want to hear this. What is the purpose of why we are speaking? When we speak, it is always to move somebody from one position to another. Just a little bit. I know there are people who go out and they change lives in the speech, but most of us change just a little bit. And knowing why we are speaking, what the purpose is of speaking in that moment, helps us be more effective. So it stops us going off at a tangent. It stops us piling in lots of other information that isn't relevant right now. So we become more effective. So figure out what it is you're saying, what the purpose is of what you're saying right now, and write that down. And make sure you're sticking with that purpose. Because my purpose right now is to help you understand why stories are effective and that it's worth working on your storytelling skills to be more effective in your business. So understand your message, bring emotion, and finally be in the moment. Now that can be a little bit of contradiction because you're thinking, well, if I know my message, but then I'm in the moment. But in the moment when you speak, quite often when you're telling your story, it will take you back to the emotion of that moment. And it may well take you deeper into that emotion than you felt before, than you felt when you made some notes on what it was you're going to say, or on the last time you spoke and you told how you felt. And this time round, you may feel it a little bit deeper. You may feel a little bit more in that moment. So be in that moment in the story, in your telling of the story, and don't worry about the notes that you made. Don't worry about those exact words you thought you were going to use. Allow yourself to be in the moment and connect more deeply with your story and more deeply with your audience, because your audience needs you to be present. And by being present, you will be more effective. So storytelling is one of the most powerful tools that you can have in business. And there's lots of ways to tell those stories, but I love to tell them through speaking. So if you want to know more about that, throughout this month, I'm going to be sharing more tips about storytelling and how to be more effective in storytelling for your business. If you want more of that, follow me on social media, follow my page, or if you're a woman in business, you can join my group, Embracing the Speaker Within. And let's go and tell our stories.